Well, we're coming to another album that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. I didn't get a chance to review all the back catalog from this group just because of all the things that were going on. I wish I did because their history is a fantastic one, which brings us to this moment, their latest release. Let's dive into it. The Optimist by Anathema. So Anathema is a kind of a post-rock experimental type of a band from the UK. They really got their start in the early 90s, but for me it wasn't until their 2010 era that I really got into these guys. They kind of took a hiatus in the early 2000s, and so when they brought out We're Here Because We're Here, that's when I really caught the attention. And then they came up with Falling Deeper, and then Weather Systems from 2012 was just a fantastic treat. It holds some of my favorite songs even to this day. Their use of creating such an atmosphere of uplifting and positive music has just been a real treat in a lot of the more depressing atmospheres within this style of music. The way that they construct songs are very unique in that it's almost atmosphere over substance sometimes, but that doesn't necessarily compromise the substance that is there. What I love about the band is their ability to just build upon the atmosphere that is there. They really take their time to ground themselves, and then from that grounding build the song up from there. Coming into The Optimist, this guy is a little bit of a departure of form in that it's much more of a, I guess, realized concept album. Each of the albums that they've brought forth up to this point have been in some way, shape, or form a concept album, but this one I feel is a much more realized and concrete concept of this individual that's kind of driving through the night thinking about the events that have just happened. And I really like that, and I like how this album is a perfect metaphor in that a road trip or this contemplation while on the road is all about the journey and not the destination. And that is a really good metaphor or feeling when it comes to Anathema's music. It's not the destination that we're hoping for, it's the journey, and it's that journey that makes the destination worthwhile. And so we're on this journey with this individual, and the album is interluded throughout with snippets of either the journey with the radio, or you're hearing like the cars that are around. You've got like a phone ringing, you've got some train sounds going in it, and I like that this is what grounds the music in this as opposed to the atmosphere that's being created. It really feels like you're on a journey with the individual that's journeying through this landscape with you. And the first couple of songs kind of caught me off guard when I first listened to it. The first song, 32 North, 117 West, it does a great job of like grounding us, and that's where you hear the individual walking on sand into the car, starting up the car and hearing the dial turning for the radio, and that's what kicks us up into Leaving It Behind. And it kind of jars me because when I first listened to this and when I was first presented with the album artwork, I was thinking that this was going to be more of like a slower burn, but right from the beginning it really hits you. Like, it's the synthesized and automated noises that really start us all off in this, and it's that jarringness and the concept of leaving it all behind because something just happened with this person and we don't exactly know what it is. And with that jarring, it kind of wakes us up and it brings us through to the next couple of songs. Endless Ways is a very traditional song for Anathema, if that's a good way to put it. Like, it's not overly that surprising. Like, Leaving It Behind was more of a surprising song for me just with how animated it was. Endless Ways was much more of a traditional song, so it kind of brought us back into you're listening to an Anathema song, and this is kind of what fans are expecting from the band. From there we go into the few songs that we've already heard from their snippets that they've kind of teased us with. The Optimist is a very great track. It laid a great foundation, and then it started to build upon itself. The one track that I just can't help but love is Ghosts, and here is where Lee's vocals, the main female vocals on this album, just shine. Her presence on this album, as well as all of Anathema's albums, just really ground it as well. Like, it provides such a contrast. And with here, it works in terms of the concept of the album. I mean, before it was just kind of a harmonization with Vincent's vocals, or at least like the two were always kind of playing off one another. This one feels much more of a feminine presence. Like, whatever happened with this individual who's driving through the night, it's almost like her voice calling out to him, beckoning him to either return or come back, or, you know, that kind of pleading, and that ghosts, that being haunted, and her haunting vocals on this track really solidify an amazing presentation of music. And this is also seen within the 9th track of Close Your Eyes. Much like Ghosts, this one is a very haunting song. And some of the darker music that we've heard from Anathema from this point, Lee's vocals on these, just haunting and very beautiful. I like the incorporation of the horns on this by providing a very like nighttime kind of a sound, and this album overall feels like a very nighttime kind of an album. And sandwiched between these two tracks is Can't Let Go, and this guy is more of that raging that we heard within this darkness. And it's interesting that this is between two haunting darker tracks, because it does have that rage. But really, the standout piece of this entire project are the last two songs, Wildfires and Back to the Start. Wildfires has a really interesting kind of take near the beginning of the track, where it's almost like spoken in reverse. And with the concept of this whole, you know, leaving it behind, can't let go, being haunted from it, with this kind of a backwards kind of approach to the lyrics, that was a really interesting idea, and it definitely fits perfectly with the overall concept of this album. The Wildfires has a great blending of the soft and the hard, that dark and the light that this album's been playing with, but it's that last song, and the one that I want to spend a little bit of time with, Back to the Start. The first half of this track is dedicated to the build-up, and it's that build-up that I love. Back to the Start is where the individual finally recognizes, I need to go back. And so it's that build-up, that convincing of yourself. And that's kind of where Wildfires presented, or at least began. So when we come to Back to the Start, it's a beautiful resolution of all that had come before. The atmosphere, the grounding, the time it took to get to this point is really what pays off. And you feel with this individual, like you're there with them in that car ride to that destination, and you're enjoying the journey that you're having within it. So overall, this album is definitely a journey is better than the destination, even though once we get to the end of the destination, it definitely pays off. The star performer on this album is definitely that last track, and it's that last track that really drives the whole album forward. It does take a little bit of time to get into. This is an album that you're going to need to listen to at least 3 or 4 times to really get into it. It isn't quite on the same level as I feel We're Here Because We're Here or Weather Systems. I feel like those two albums are still way up here. This one is just below that, and I have a feeling the more we listen to it, the more we'll enjoy it as well. So my final rating for this album is, if you can find it on physical format, definitely go out and do so, because it deserves to be in your collection. If you are a fan of Anathema, if you're a fan of this style of progressive rock, you're going to love this album. That's about it for The Optimist by Anathema. What did you guys think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. Thank you guys as always for watching. You guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.